Hi, so this is going to be a really short video. I really just felt pressing urge to share with you a couple things that I heard the Lord say this week. I know many of you have been watching the news and have been following everything about Israel and Iran. And for believers, for those of us who know Jesus, we know that there's nothing that we need to worry about. God takes care of us, especially for those who trust in him and look to him to provide for them. God takes care of us. So the last thing I want is for this video to sound alarmist or to bring anxiety, but I do feel there are times where the Lord gives us warnings and messages to prepare. And by the way, I'm sorry if you hear a lot of noises in the background. I'm recording this video from my studio, which is in a very industrial area of Brooklyn. And there's also a wood shop in the basement here. So I often hear their saws and music. So I'm sorry if you're hearing other noises, but there's nothing really I can do about it. I kind of have to make these videos when I have a spare moment. So I received some of these messages on the 15th and the 16th, but then they've sort of like continued. And then God has been reminding me of some other things. So I just wanted to share them with you. Basically, I was praying a lot about Israel, praying about the shift in the spirit that's occurring with Israel and the upcoming time with Israel. But then, as a believer living in the U.S., I think the Lord speaks to us depending on our location and our place in the body, like physical locations, like on the earth. He will have specific messages for people living in specific areas. So this message is probably primarily to Christians in the U.S., but I'm just sharing with you what I'm hearing. The word I'm hearing right now is like, there has been a shift in the spirit. There are times where we are called to be more outwardly directed, and then there are times where we're going to be called to look inward and to take stock. And this is one of those times. I'm feeling in my spirit like right now, this is a time to look inward and to take stock and to examine your storehouses. I heard him say that, examine your storehouses. So, like, what does that mean? I think it has two meanings. I think there is a spiritual meaning of examining your storehouse, but then there's also a very logistical component to this, like very logistical, physical component to examining your storehouses. And the reason I felt pressed to share this today was because I just saw that Crystal, Love for Jesus, who also receives dreams and hears from the Lord prophetically and looking forward, received a similar message this week. And so that's why I feel pressed to release this today. It was a bit of a confirmation for me. I received this on the 15th, but he said that it's not always going to be a time to be so outward, and sometimes there's a time to reflect and turn inward and take stock, and this is that time. He says, examine your storehouse, examine your grain silos, refill, and go to him. And then he says, from the belly flows rivers of living water. So I think so I grew up in a household like where I grew up in the time of Y2K. I was in high school during Y2K. I graduated from high school in the year 2000. So the kind of frenzy around Y2K was like definitely part of my growing up. And my father was definitely someone who stocked food starting back in the 90s. And there was always like an element of fear to that. And that is not what I mean to bring to you. I do not want you to be in fear. We know that the Lord takes care of us. Again, if you read Psalm 91, it's something that I really believe that we depend on, is that he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. So like the Lord is someone that will take care of us, and he takes care of his children. But there are also times where he gives us messages to prepare. And I think there are times where he does give us messages to take stock of what we have physically and spiritually and emotionally, and to turn inward and examine our storehouses. And this is what I'm feeling in this time. So I just want to give you an example of something that happened to me this past year, and the reason why I believe him when he says this. So back in September, I had a small inheritance, not much money, but a small inheritance that was invested in an ETF. My brother-in-law is a financial advisor, so I had taken his advice and invested in this particular ETF with my inheritance. It's a small inheritance that my grandmother left me when she died. So I took that money and I had it invested in an ETF. Back in September, the Lord specifically told me to take that money out of that ETF and to buy gold. And at the time, I had never bought gold before. I felt a little weird doing it, but I very specifically heard God tell me exactly what to buy. And I felt a very strong pressing. And then he kept reminding me. So I did it. So that was back in September. At that time, gold was priced, I think it was like 19 per ounce. It was like $1,950 per ounce. Since then, gold has gone up to almost $2,400 per ounce. So that is over 20% increase since September. So when I purchased the gold back in September, since then my money has increased. That investment has increased by over 20%. And there are I don't know a lot about gold. There are a lot of reasons gold has gone up. Part of that is because of the BRICS nations investing in gold. If that's something you follow, you'll understand what I mean. Also, the fact that I guess China's been buying gold like hand over fist. They've just been stockpiling gold the past couple years. The ETF that my brother-in-law had me invested in since September has only gone up 3%. So huge difference. Gold is up like almost 23%. That ETF is up 3%. So the Lord told me to do that. I believe when the Lord tells me to do something, I trust him. I know that he has our best interests at heart. Back in September, he also had told me to buy some food. So some non-perishable food. So I did that. It's not a lot, but it is probably about 2 weeks worth of food, if just enough for me and my husband. It's not that much. I probably will buy some more. He's also spoken to me about getting a water purifier, for our sinks, a water purifier that you can hook up to the sink. So I do plan on doing that. I don't exactly know why. I don't have a feeling, or I don't have a clear revelation about why. I do look back and I know that he told me about the gold, and I did that, and I'm very glad that I did that. So I don't say this to invoke fear, but I say it might be a good time to go to the Lord and ask him if there's anything you need to do to prepare for the future, or if he's already told you to do something and you haven't, it might be a good time to do that. Again, I don't want to invoke fear. I don't exactly know why, but it's not a bad idea to be prepared. And worst case scenario, if you have some food stored, you can just eat it. It's not a bad thing to have food stored. And also, I'm sure you remember what the grocery stores were like in March of 2020. Yeah, I don't think there's much I have to say about that. But I just wanted to throw that out there. I wanted to come on here and say that the Lord specifically told me to examine your storehouse, examine your grain silos, refill. And then he also said he anoints our heads with oil and your cup overflows. And he says, be filled. And it's a command. So I think there's also a spiritual meaning to this. I think it's a time to take stock of ourselves and our relationship with him. He says that he fills us up so that we can give to others. He takes care of us and fills us with his Holy Spirit so that out of an abundance flows rivers of living water. He fills us so that we can overflow and give to others and take care of others and minister to others. So yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I pray for Israel, and I know that everything going on with Israel right now and Iran is concerning, and we're seeing the chess pieces set up for what will eventually lead to probably to a bigger escalation. And every time it seems like there's a lull, but then it's like the stakes get a little higher, and there's a lull, but then the stakes get a little higher. And I think that's where we're going. He reminds me that we are vessels of mercy prepared for glory, and that we are vessels to be filled. We're vessels of mercy prepared for glory, and it's through us that he's able to exhibit his mercy. And we fulfill his purpose of him being able to show his mercy and grace. So he also told me to pray for the harvest season. And he basically said it's already late and that we need to start considering the harvest. And he said the crops will go bad. And he says, call forth a harvest. And then there is the verse Joel 3:13 through 14. Joel 3:13 through 14, put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come tread, for the winepress is full. The vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and moon grow dark, and the stars lose their brightness. The Lord roars from Zion and utters his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth tremble. But the Lord is a refuge for his people and a stronghold to the sons of Israel. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. So Jerusalem will be holy, and strangers will pass through it no more. He says, pray for the harvest season. It's already late. The crops will go bad if they're not harvested. And he says, call forth the harvest. And that was a corporate word. I'm telling you it's a corporate word because sometimes when he's speaking to me directly. It's stuff specific to me, but that was specifically corporate and more about a larger movement of God. The harvest is coming. Like, prepare for the harvest. And he says, also examine your storehouse, examine your grain silos, refill, go to him. From the belly flows rivers of living water. So, like, examine your personal physical storehouses, but examine your spiritual storehouse. Where is your relationship with him? Are you filled with him? Do you have the sustenance, the relationship that you need going forward? Do you have the physical preparation of your physical house for you and your family? He says he anoints our head with oil, your cup overflows, and that we give out of an abundance. So we have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. He says, be filled. It's a command, and he's calling it forth into being. He also calls us vessels of mercy prepared for glory. So Romans 9:22 through 24. So this passage is really specifically about the Lord preparing two kind of vessels, those meant for wrath, a vessel prepared for wrath, and a vessel prepared for glory. It says, Romans 9, verse 18, so then he has mercy on whom he desires, and he hardens whom he desires. You will say to me then, why does he still find fault? For who resists his will? On the contrary, who are you, O man, who answers back to God? The thing molded will not say to the molder, why did you make me like this? Or does not the potter have a right over the clay to make from the same lump one vessel for honorable use and another for common use? What if God, although willing to demonstrate his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction? And he did so to make known the riches of his glory upon vessels of mercy, which he prepared beforehand for glory. Even us, whom he also called, not from among Jews only, but also from among Gentiles. So those are all things I'm hearing. Prepare, take stock of your silos, spiritually and physically. The harvest is ready. Be prepared to take the harvest. Be filled with him and follow him, look to him. So that's what I'm hearing. I wish I had more time to make a longer video, but I just don't. I'm sorry. I think I mentioned this, like I'm a visual artist. I have a show coming up I also have another deadline that's due May 1st, and I also am teaching college. I teach 4 days a week. So yeah, it's been a really crazy time. Thank you again for all the support. Thank you for likes and subscribes and for comments. And, my will is to build the body of Christ, to be a voice for God when he wants me to be a voice. And he does keep speaking to me, even though it's a busy time. And this channel is to give him all the praise and glory and honor. And it's not for me, it's for him. And so I'm just trying to obey and do what he tells me day by day. So I hope you're doing the same thing and pray and take stock, follow him. And I wish you all the best. God bless.